call to order the Laramie City Council regular meeting, Tuesday, May 6, 2025. If you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. City Clerk, if you can please call the roll.
Bowling.
Here.
Freed.
Here.
Lockhart.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Shumway.
Here.
Behill.
Here.
Richardson.
Here.
Cumby.
Here.
That's 9 present and 0 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Next, we will go to public comment on non-agenda items. And is this, oh, do we have a buzz going?
Yeah, there's a
Okay,
buzz.
thank you. I think I heard it too. Public comment on non-agenda items.
Mayor, we had a few responses earlier today, but a couple of them emailed me back and said that they wanted to come tomorrow to
Okay.
the work session. Unless B. Mock is here.
I see no one.
Okay.
So we will then move on. The next item is consideration of changes to the agenda. And before I ask for any public input, I'd like to say that during pre-council session, council has pulled item 9Q, which is amending the City of Laramie's official zoning map to zone a newly annexed parcel of land located off Hilltop Drive. So we have moved that to be item 10A. It will begin the regular agenda, and that allows us to have discussion on this item. So with that said, oh, here we go. Do I have any public requests to move a consent agenda item and place it on the regular agenda other than item 9Q that has already been moved? Online? Seeing none, I will move to Vice Mayor Richardson to set the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the following changes to the agenda be approved: to move item 9Q to the regular agenda as item 10A, and 9Q is amending the city's official zoning map to zone a newly annexed parcel.
Second.
Motion by Richardson, second by Newman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. That passes 9-0. And now, Vice Mayor, if you can set the agenda.
Thank you. I move that the agenda be set as changed.
Second.
Motion by Richardson, second by Shumway. City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Aye.
Lockhart.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
O'Doherty.
Aye.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Aye.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Next, we will move on to proclamations, and I have the honor and privilege of reading the proclamation for Nurses Week. And before I do that, I would like to let you know that this means a lot to me, as I am a nurse and am a retired professor of nursing. So this is especially exciting for me to be able to read. So, whereas registered nurses in Wyoming constitute our state's largest healthcare profession, and whereas the depth and breadth of the registered nursing profession meets the different and emerging healthcare needs of the Wyoming population in a wide range of settings, and whereas the Wyoming Nurses Association, as the voice for registered nurses in this state, is working to chart a new course for a healthy nation that relies on increasing access to primary and preventative health care and better utilization of all states' registered nursing resources. And whereas professional nursing is an indispensable component of the safety and quality of care of hospitalized and non-hospitalized patients, and whereas the demand for registered nursing services will be greater than ever because of the aging of the Wyoming population, emerging health challenges, the continuing expansion of life-sustaining technologies, and the explosive growth of home health care services, and whereas more qualified registered nurses are needed in the future to meet the increasingly complex needs of healthcare consumers in this community, and whereas the cost-effective, safe, and high-quality healthcare services provided by registered nurses will be an increasingly important component of the Wyoming healthcare delivery system in the future, and whereas the Wyoming Nurses Association has declared May 6 through 12 as Nurses Week with the theme, The Power of Nurses, with appreciation for nurses' unparalleled impact and their contributions to health care, and an open invitation to thank a nurse for enriching our lives and the world we live in. Therefore, be it now resolved that I, Sharon Cumby, acting as mayor and president of the governing body of the city of Wyoming, do hereby proclaim May 6 through 12, 2025 as Nurses Week. Now therefore be resolved that the residents of Wyoming celebrate registered nurses' accomplishments and efforts to improve our healthcare system and show our appreciation for the state's registered nurses, not just during this week, but at every opportunity throughout the year. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the executive seal of the mayor of the city of Laramie to be affixed this 6th day of May. And I would like to, we have some distinguished nurses in the audience with us, and I'd like to invite the UW School of Nursing Dean, Cheryl J. Smith, as well as Ivinson Memorial Hospital Chief Nursing Officer, Mary Ponce, to come up to the podium and say a few words if you'd like. And then we'd like to invite all of the nurses to come up and have a picture with council in honor of this. Welcome, Mary and Cheryl.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's on, good.
Oh, good. So I'm Mary Ponce. I've been in Laramie a year, been a nurse a little over 20 years. And it's just such an honor to be here, Mayor Cumby, with you all and just celebrating nurses. It's a tough job, and the nurses in our hospital and in our community do such great work. Their quality, their patient experience, all of those things really speak volumes. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
And thank you, Mayor Cumby. Cheryl Smith, the Dean of Nursing at the University of Wyoming. And I think just your role as a mayor here speaks to the power of nursing. We are so proud of all the things that nurses do. And this is just so excited to see a nurse who is here is overseeing the city council here in Laramie. So as someone who represents faculty who prepare nurses for our communities in Wyoming and beyond, we just want to say thank you for your support, and we look forward to continue to produce nurses to support our communities.
Thank you very much. And I would like to say that I believe that my education and training as a nurse and my experience as a nursing professor prepared me for the job I'm doing now. So if the nurses would like to, this door swings open, and we would love to have a picture with you if you would like. Thank you. A big profession. Okay, we will move on now to our next proclamation, which is Bicycle Awareness Month, and Councilor Freed is going to read this proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. Also really excited to read this proclamation from building trails and using them, and it's fantastic. Whereas National Bike Month is celebrated across the country each May as a time to highlight the many benefits of bicycling and encourage more folks to give biking a try, and whereas the City of Laramie proudly joins in this national celebration with local flair, embracing the spring winds, warm sunshine, and renewed energy of May as the perfect backdrop to roll into Bike Month, and whereas the City of Laramie is kicked things off in style with the Ritual Mountain Bike Film Fest on May 1st at 7 p.m. at the UW Arts and Sciences Auditorium, presented in partnership with the University of Wyoming's outdoor program, and whereas National Bike to Work Day on May 16th will be celebrated with a community breakfast at First Street Plaza from 7 to 9 a.m., sponsored by Noosa Yogurt, bringing together riders of all experience levels to enjoy snacks, fresh air, and the fun of a morning commute on two wheels. And whereas Laramie is committed to creating a bike-friendly city that supports safe cycling for all ages and skill levels, and our expanding network of bike lanes, trails, and community events reflects our belief that a city built for biking is a city built for connection, health, and sustainability. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Jim Freed, acting on behalf of Mayor and the President of the governing body of the City of Laramie, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as Bicycle Awareness Month. In the City of Laramie, Wyoming, and I invite all residents to pump up their tires, strap on their helmets, and join us in celebrating the power, freedom, and fun of bicycling. A witness whereof, I have hereunto set the mayor's hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the city of Laramie the 6th day of May, 2025.
Honorable Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
just follow up on Councilor Freed's
Yes, Mr.
wonderful
Gavin
reading of the
Toomer.
proclamation. Thank you. We have a few members of BikeNet with us here tonight, which is a great organization in town. Christy and Lars, the president and vice president, I invite them to come on up. But while they're coming up, I just want to say we appreciate the council's transportation and accessibility goal is specifically calling out bicycling as an important mode of transportation, and one that this council is interested in seeing furthered and made safer and more accessible in Laramie. So thank you for that. I invite Christy and Lars up as well.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Christy Smith. I'm president of Laramie BikeNet, and that was a really fun proclamation. And I mean, cycling is fun, right? We have been an organization for, it'll be 30 years next year. We've done so much for this community, and in partners, you know, with the city of Laramie and lots of partners. And just a couple things that we've done recently is we give away youth helmets to kids for free. We host the Bike Valet at the Freedom Has a Birthday event. And we host a lot of youth cycling clinics, and what else? We do a lot, and we have committees, and Lars is vice president, and he's the chairperson for the transportation committee.
Okay. Well, thank you for celebrating and embracing Bike Month. I think it's very fitting that the celebration for Nurses Week is also the same day, because we're talking about health and preventative health, so that's something that's dear to me also for my career. And, you know, our vision in BikeNet is just, it's pretty simple. It's, you know, an engaged community that has access to biking, whether it's trails or safe streets, and for a healthy community. So thank you very much. We really appreciate that you're taking this on. So we hope our relationship grows. All right, thank you.
We'd like you also to come up and have a picture with council, if you will. And I'd just like to thank you and BikeNet for all of the work that you do on numerous projects that benefit our city, and biking and trail development, et cetera. It's significant, the work that you do and have done. So thank you very much. So if
And through you, Mayor, if we could invite anyone who likes to ride a bike, which should be everybody, right, up on stage, if that's okay as well.
whatever. All right.
Bunch of tall bikers.
Yeah.
Gonna have to figure this out again for Nancy.
Tall bikers.
And
Maybe people would just kind of sit on the.
does, who gets this? There you go.
Okay, tall bikers.
Tall bikers.
And
You can just kind of sit on the desk, I think.
Kind of losing Counselor Behill.
Oh, there you go. Second time tonight. Stand on my toes. Okay.
we can drop our knees just a bit. So,
You don't have much room.
I can also just leave.
We're gonna make it work. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
okay, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. so we will move on with the business at hand. Next, public hearing. City Clerk?
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the Laramie City Council will be held Tuesday, May 6, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Council Chambers, and via Zoom meeting for the following purpose. Original Ordinance Number 2104, amending Title 2.32 of Laramie Municipal Code related to Environmental Advisory Committee. All information relative to this matter is available for review at the City of Laramie City Clerk's Office at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting or via Zoom. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Is there any public comment on this public hearing notice? Online? Seeing none, we will move on to announcements. City Manager, are there announcements this evening?
Yes, thank you. We have 2 announcements from Public Works and then 1 from the City Clerk.
Good evening, Director Webb.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. 2 quick announcements from our Solid Waste Division. This week, our landfill voucher program opened up. We're taking online applications at www.cityoflaramie.org/voucher. Or if it's easier, just go to the Solid Waste Division webpage, and there's a link there that'll take you right to it. Pretty simple process on filling things out. Right before I left the office today, I checked, and we've already had 198 applications come in. The vouchers are good through September 20th. They're good for 1 pickup truck size load of waste, 1 voucher per household, no businesses. Second announcement is for Free Compost Day, Saturday, May 17th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. for all residents in Albany County. Staff will be on hand to load pickups and trailers, and if folks can't make it that day, they can pick up compost at the landfill any time during regular business hours. It's $25 a ton, which equates to about $1 per 80 pounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Webb. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick announcement. We start budget work sessions tomorrow. If anyone saw the initial calendar invites, we have changed the location back to City Hall here. So please do not visit us at the MOC, the North Campus, because we will be here tomorrow night.
Thank you, City Clerk. Vice Mayor Richardson, approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the consent agenda be approved as amended and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second. Motion by Richardson, second by O'Doherty. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Aye.
Lockhart.
Aye.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Aye.
Shumway. Behill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Aye.
Cumby.
Aye.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes. Next, we will move on to the regular agenda and item 10A, Councilor O'Doherty.
I move to approve original ordinance number 2101 on 3rd reading, establishing the R1 single-family residential zoning district for an annexed property approximately 15.79 acres in size, located off of Hilltop Drive, adjacent to the municipal boundary on all sides, in accordance with findings of fact and conclusions of law, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by O'Doherty, second by Richardson. Good evening, Mr. Gabantuller.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of council, I will keep this short given it is 3rd reading, but the 15.8 acre parcel known as the Hilltop parcel, which is proposed for annexation, is being recommended as taken in under the R1 zoning category. R1 zoning designation is consistent with that surrounding neighborhood and aligns with the Laramie Comprehensive Plan's suburban residential designation. I think just a couple things I want to reiterate for the R1 recommendation versus a RR or LR is while RR might appear to limit density with the minimum lot sizes as double of what R1 is at 8,000 square feet per lot, it does introduce other permitted and conditional uses that aren't allowed under R1, such as the permitting of a manufactured home community, conditionally permitted campgrounds, commercial outdoor recreation, and/or travel parks. So I just want to reiterate that fact that is also a reason why we're recommending R1, not just because that's what the area is surrounded by and it makes it integrates well, but because of the uses that are permitted in R1 versus LR and RR as well. So with that, I'm glad to take any questions.
Questions, councilors? Vice Mayor Richardson?
Thank you. Can you just remind us and some folks in the audience and who might be listening online, what, even though this is R1 and what the number could be for those plats, because there is only one road, what that difference is?
Yes, through you, Mayor. That is correct. There's currently one access from Hilltop Drive off of Nighthawk to access the property, and due to fire code, that would restrict any development to 29 units. So regardless of what the zoning classification is, which R1, RR, and LR would all allow more, but it would be restricted to that 29 because of fire code and access.
Further questions? Councilor Bowling.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Philip. Could you additionally remind folks in the audience or who may be listening online what the steps are and the opportunities will be for public input and council input moving forward after annexation and zoning?
Yeah, Honorable Mayor, through you, yes, so this is just the first step to seeing anything developed on that property. So if council were to approve the annexation, the rezoning, then a developer would come forth with the preliminary plat, and which would have a reading in front of council, reading in front of planning commission, notification would be sent out to neighboring property owners within 300 feet. There would be, during that phase alone, a advertisement in the newspaper, but a great opportunity for public input, for staff to review to make sure the proposed development meets city code and fits within the property. And then there's another step, right? There's the preliminary plat, and then there's the final plat, in which the same process is basically gone through. And so I mean, there's another process for public input during the final platting phase, which follows the same as I mentioned: written notice, published notice, and notice posted around the property as well.
Further questions? I have one, and that is a very unusual piece of property, very steep, and many residents have expressed concern about development and potential drainage runoff. Prior to any type of advancing toward development, would there be studies done and engineering studies to evaluate and make recommendations about that? Could you speak to that, please?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, through our preliminary, and I just want to mention, that's one of the benefits for bringing this property into the city, is that the city does have those requirements, those stormwater and drainage requirements that aren't as stringent or even in county regulations at all. So yes, so that brings me to the point, yes, city engineering staff, public works staff, looks to make sure that the runoff from this subdivision matches pre-development runoff, right? So that means retention, detention of some kind to make sure that those concerns are addressed. And that is done in the preliminary plating phase.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I will thank you very much, and I will go to the public. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Good. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to us.
If you could say your name, please, for the record.
Absolutely. Derek Jones. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about this important scenario. I understand all the points of future conversations and future opportunities for us to speak on it. And I know some of my neighbors, friends, and folks have already spoken at previous meetings about some of the importance of this. So I will be brief to say, I just think that this council should take caution on what we decide to do as a community to allow our kids to play on fun stuff like this and to have something that I think is a landmark in this community. People utilize W Hill all the time, and I will be back to talk again about these important things. So thank you for taking the time, for listening, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. Any further comment? Welcome. If you could say your name for the record.
My name is Lisa Odell, and I'm here in advocacy for W Hill. That was initiated in 1913 by the University of Wyoming. I'm kind of surprised they're not here to support what they started developing. But it's a very iconic place. I'm only third generation Wyoming. I graduated high school and university and everything. But it's very important to me to advocate for W Hill and to keep that landmark. So that's what I would like to say.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate your time. Any other comments? Good evening. If you can state your name.
Bill Gorman, 2063 North 17th, Honorable Mayor,
Good
Council.
evening.
I would just like to bring up the fact that after the annexation, obviously we know that annexations don't happen every day, and this is a great opportunity to preserve some of that hill as open space or a park. And it is shown in the master plan in our area between 15th Street and 30th out to from Reynolds to the city boundary, Asphalt Road, that area is deficient of parks. And so this is a great opportunity to maybe take a little bit of that property and put it towards that kind of a use. So I know this is way early in the process, but parks take a long time to develop, and so I thought it's worth bringing up. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. And we have an online. Tom? Tom, if you can turn on your camera.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you see me?
Yes.
Hey, guys.
If you could state your full name for the record.
Yeah, this is Tom Willis calling. I'm the owner of W Hill. I want to thank everybody for attending tonight and just apologize. I thought the meeting started at 7, so I apologize for being late. I think I missed some comments here that I'm definitely going to rewatch this meeting for that purpose to hear some of that community feedback. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I'm here, and I am hearing some of these comments. And like I said, I just joined a couple of minutes ago, so just wanted to announce myself, and if anybody had any questions for me or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I think the open space is something that we've heard from the beginning. It's actually a park was an idea that we brought to the planning, and it didn't sound like that was part of the city plan at that time. So, we've moved forward with this annexation and zoning as R1 because it fits with kind of the community plan based on our understanding of that situation. So that's kind of how we came to this point. And but we hear you loud and clear. It's something that we're taking into consideration as we begin our development plans. And right now we don't really even have anything firm or concrete or anything. We're trying to come up with ideas now. So all this feedback is extremely valuable and definitely something that we want to take into context. And I understand. I'm from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, so all that to say is I kind of understand that there's a lot of history to this landmark in the city. It's an important part of the community. But yeah, just appreciate everybody coming out and sharing their thoughts, and I'm happy to have conversations with folks offline too. So.
Thank you very much, Tom, and we really appreciate your listening to the community and your openness to dialogue. Much appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Any further comment online?
No other hand.
Okay, then I'll return to the council. Council comments. Councilor O'Doherty.
I want to thank all my neighbors for coming out, and also Mr. Willis, and I wonder what's the best way for the neighbors to contact Mr. Willis. Would that be through the planning department or through, I mean, I'm sure all his contact stuff is in this documentation somewhere.
Honorable Mayor, yes. I mean, we're glad to share that information. I just shared with that gentleman. I think Tom would be okay with anybody. If you want to contact the planning department, planning@cityoflaramie.org, we'd be glad to share Tom's info.
Yeah, you can email me. It's Tom@Wilco Land LLC, WILCOLAND LLC.com. And yeah, Philip has my phone number and that contact information too, if you didn't get a chance to write that down. So.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Councilors, further comment? Councilor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thanks to the planning department and the public for really, I think, providing this opportunity. I think there's a ton of really important and great things that we can do on this property with public input, with planning, and this is the first step, but it's really exciting for me sitting up here to hear all the people that are passionate about this area, and I think the planning department has echoed their willingness to try to figure out how we can utilize this parcel of land, with that first step being getting it annexed into the city, and then I think it's going to be a really cool process to figure out what we can build to get some houses for people that need houses, and also consider some green space and open space in there, and make sure we continue to keep the community vibe that we're talking about. Thank you.
Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo that sentiment that Councilor Freed mentioned. I do want to thank Mr. Willis for being involved in every one of these readings and meetings, and he's got an open mind and he understands, I'm pretty sure, as we all do, having open space for people to walk, play, and whatnot. And also, on top of that, with planning helping come out, we do need housing in this town. So if we can combine both and make it a great addition to Laramie, that'd be fantastic, and a place that I'd want to take my kids with, a new park in town. So the more parks we have, I think the better, but we also need housing. So I think this can solve a couple issues. So we appreciate everybody's involvement. Thank you.
Further comment? Again, Mr. Willis, I really appreciate your openness and willingness to dialogue and to co-develop ideas. So, and to the community, thank you for speaking up and for voicing ideas and your passion and your ideas for creative solutions. And I appreciate the way that you approached us with thoughtfulness, problem solving, and I think it's really helpful. Thank you. So, City Clerk, if you can call the roll.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes,
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
that motion passes. Thank you, City Clerk. Item 11, Vice Mayor Richardson.
I move to award the bid for the Dallin Diversion Rehabilitation Project to WURX LLC of Laramie, Wyoming, in the amount of $2,174,406, and to approve Resolution 2025-36, amending appropriations for the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget of the City of Laramie, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Richardson, second by O'Doherty. Welcome, Mr. Smith. It's good to see you.
Mayor, council members, it's great to see y'all. I'm sure you'll hear me say again, I'm excited about this one. You know? For those of you who've heard me, I've said it like 4 times now. So what you have in front of you is the award of the construction bid, and this essentially is the culmination of 7 years of work from the city manager's office, my predecessor, and my replacement, Mr. Levine. And we went out to bid. We received 2 bids, one from Works for $2,174,406, and then a bid from Riemann Corp, $3,136,214. Staff is recommending that we go with Works, and so is our design engineer. That's the first part of this project, to demo and rehab the entire structure. The second part of this item is a budget amendment to add $110,000 to the capital project. And I just want to make sure it's clear that $110,000 is not all city cost. Because of the grants that we've received, the total number for grants that have been awarded as of today is $2,129,440. The total project cost between design and build is $2,452,406. I threw an extra dollar in there. So we have, the difference there is $322,966. The city has a $250,000 cost share, 10%, that we agreed to in the beginning of this process. So the potential shortfall would be about $70,000. So that 110 is just to cover our total capital project until our reimbursements from the grants come back through. So we're not actually spending more money than what we thought. And we still have one grant outstanding from NACA that would be $400,000, and we should know around July. So with that, I would stand for any questions, unless you want to hear how excited I am.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Questions, council? Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your excitement. Enthusiasm breeds enthusiasm, right? My big question is, when you look at the 2 bids, they're $1 million apart. can you explain why, I mean, you know, of course we want the lower bid, but also we want to make sure it works, because the lower is not, cheaper is not always better. And that's quite a big difference. So I'd love some input. I think we all would love some input. The community would too. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
So we had the exact same question. The design engineer and I were like, what are we doing? And also our engineering staff that is helping out on this project. We were like, wow, this is a huge difference. And once we talked to the contractor through Works, the difference is they believe they can drive the sheet pile, which lowers the dewatering cost and also the material cost. Because then sheet pile, right, but steel they're going to drive into the ground is not structural. It's just to divert water. So if they can drive it, which they have pretty much guaranteed us that they can, that's why the difference in the cost. And also some of the mobilization cost is a little bit less there. But definitely a question we had too. It was concerning to see the disparity.
Thank you. Further questions? Councilor Shumway.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. It's my understanding that once we let the bid, then there's no longer a guarantee that we're going to be able to utilize grants that come in. Should we wait till July to let the bid and hope that this last grant for $400,000 comes through?
So in the very beginning, my predecessor, Mr. Parkin, he built kind of a group of funding partners. So everyone has been involved from the very beginning to this point now. So if the NACA grant does come through, they are on board with this also. They were a part of the bid. After we went through the city's process, we contacted all of the funding partners, let them see the bids to make sure they were on board with it also. So in this particular case, I'm not sure about other cases with grants if we go out to bid, but in this case, NACA would still be in play.
Further questions? Seeing none, I go to the public. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Online? Seeing none, I return to council for comments. Any comments, councilors? Councilor O'Doherty.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. I just want to gush about our staff bringing this up and Mr. Parkin initially, and how this is going to improve wildlife. Fish are going to now have, another 17 miles or 20-some miles of, and trout migrate, and so it's good to have not have that obstruction anymore. And as a former wildlife biologist, that's pretty thrilling to me, and just appreciate all the work that's gone into it and the grant writing. Thanks so much.
Councilor Bowling.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Smith. I just want to echo Councilor O'Doherty to commend you and city staff for your stewardship of our resources, water management, and personally, I just want to see the fish ladder. Very excited about that. So when that time comes, please let us know.
I just want to say the work and the sustained effort that has gone into making this happen from Mr. Perkins, from Mr. Smith, from the city manager and the staff. It's amazing. And to think that we have a almost $3 million project that we are receiving significant, the major portion is being funded through grants, and it will impact our community tremendously and impact the sustainability of our river and wildlife and fish. And so I just really appreciate the work that's gone into this. City Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Bowling. Holling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Aye.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Feehill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. And councilors, take a look at the clock, and so let's just keep moving along. Item number 12, Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to award the maintenance contract for the secondary clarifier mechanism replacement project at the wastewater treatment plant to Sentry Equipment, Rebuild It Services Group of West Jordan, Utah, in the amount of $229,964 with a contingency of $20,996, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second. Motion by Lockhart, second by Feehill. Yes, City Clerk.
Mayor, if we could just get a clarification on the contingency amount. We understood $20,996. Can we just have a clarification to $22,996?
$22,996. Oops, sorry. I'll go back in here with a contingency of $22,996 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Does the second agree to that?
Second. Second agrees.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Director Webb.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The wastewater treatment plant has two secondary clarifiers out there. They're pretty old, so they're in need of some maintenance and repairs. The scope of work includes rebuilding the drive mechanisms, replacing the skimming devices, coating submerged components, and repairing a damaged center column in one of the clarifiers. Through the wastewater treatment process, the clarifiers, simply stated, remove the suspended solids from the liquids. So the suspended solids fall to the bottom, the clarified water goes out the top, separates them for further treatment. We put together a request for quotes. We only received one proposal. It's from Rebuild It Services Group out of Utah. We've looked into them, good company, it looks like. And so we are recommending award to Rebuild It Services Group. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Questions, Council? Councilor Lockhart?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Webb. Just a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity with the mayor to go out there and Mr. Schott explained this whole process, so very interesting. My big question is, it talks about in here about what the money does cover, the labor, and then the proposal, but it excludes quite a few items in here, like electrical disconnect and reconnect, and there's quite a list here. So if the proposal doesn't include those items, how much are those going to cost? Do we have an estimate on that, and where's those funds going to come from?
Yeah, Mayor, through you, our project manager, Mark Hazlett's here. He's our in-house senior engineer with a mechanical engineering degree. And I'm going to put him on the spot and ask him to come up and take that question for us. Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, through you. So we've been talking with Rebuild It on the scope of work for this, and we've come up with a plan that everything not covered, we can either self-perform or have a mechanism to do it, so it'll just be falling under our regular maintenance schedules beyond the scope of their services. So
No cost for it?
no additional costs above that. So
thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Councilor Shumway.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I didn't have a chance to look at this. We budget each item that we're going to set out for bids. I just wondered if the bid that we received from Rebuild It came within the amount that we had budgeted for this project.
Yeah, Mayor, through you, I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but the bid was it about $50,000? about 50,000 over. We had some funds remaining on two other projects at the wastewater treatment plant. Those projects were done, so we're transferring that money over to get this project taken care of. So same amount of funds within the wastewater capital plan, wastewater plant treatment plant capital plan, but just transferring from one project to another.
Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Yep.
Further questions? Is there public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none. Any final comments from Councilor O'Doherty?
I want to thank Mr. Haslett for all the money he saved us at the wastewater treatment plant with all of the blowers and this, and it's good that we have your expertise there to be able to do a lot of this in-house, so thank you.
City Clerk, please call the roll.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Aye.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson. Yes. Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes. Item 13, Councilor Vigil.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to award the bid for the 2025 Cured in Place Pipe Project to Inliner Solutions LLC of Kiowa, Colorado in the amount of $516,575 plus a contingency of $44,700 for a total of amount not to exceed $561,275 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Vigil, second by Councilor Newman. Welcome, Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. The Cured in Place Pipe Project, or CIPP, is a project that we try to do every year. It's a fairly inexpensive way to really repair some old pipe. I know the dollar amount looks really high, but when I say inexpensive, to actually replace the amount of pipe that we're lining would be millions and millions of dollars. The lining systems are pretty cool. They pull it in, it ends up being almost like a new pipe within the pipe, and really extends the life, they say 30 to 75 years, depending on the size of pipe and what it's taking. So it's a pretty neat technology. We've been doing it for years. Years ago, we would get one bid all the time. The process has gotten so popular across the country that there's more and more companies now doing it, so it's nice to see that we get some more bids. The project encompasses some storm sewer and some sanitary sewer. For the storm sewer sections, we'll be doing 30th Street between Willett Drive and Grand Avenue, 1st Street between Sheridan Street and Garfield Street, and 15th Street between Sheridan Street and Grand Avenue. For the sanitary sewer, we'll be doing 9th Street, Harney to Canby, Ord Street, 9th to 11th, 9th Street, Park to Steele, and Steele Street, 9th to 10th. Cool thing about this too is when they do this process, a lot of times we don't have to close the road. We can shift lanes if it's a wide enough road. If we do need to close the road, we'll do a bypass for one block or whatever. So we haven't come up with a work plan with the contractor yet because we haven't awarded, but I'm sure hoping when we do 30th, we don't have to close that section of 30th. We can just do some lane shifting. Anyway, we went out to bid. We got 3 bids. Inliner Solutions was the low bid. The city clerk opened and read those bids for us on February 1st, and staff is recommending Inline Solutions, the low bidder for the project. I'll take questions if you have them.
Thank you. Questions? Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Webb, just a quick question. I know that this is a system where there's a liner inside of an existing pipe. What capacity do we lose when we put that new insert within the system with this project?
Yeah, Mayor, through you, the liners, it's pretty thin, but it's hard. The other thing that happens is that those lines are cleaned before they're lined, so we actually probably gain some capacity. We are, especially on the storm side, our street guys have been out going through all these lines the last couple months and cammering them and cleaning them, and there was root intrusion and everything else. So just them going out and cleaning them alone gains us some capacity, and then the new liner system, which is pretty thin. So I would say that we don't really lose capacity. In fact, with them being cleaned and lined, I don't want to say we gain capacity, but we may gain flow.
Thank you. Councilor Bowling.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Webb. And forgive my memory here, but I'm hoping maybe you can jog it. And I did not have the chance to go back through my notes and look, but I have a recollection there was an item that came before council a few months back, also about a pipe lining project that involved a bid for a company that then stopped doing that, and we ended up having to sort of like terminate that contract. Can you remind me of the circumstances of that and discuss this project in that same context?
Sure, yeah. Mayor, through you. So the Thornburg Alley project, the liner that's in there is actually a completely different technology than this, and that was on a water line. We don't necessarily line water lines anymore, one because of the high pressure, and then two because all the service taps that come in there. So I just want to say it's completely different in that it is a pressurized water line as opposed to a gravity flow sewer, storm sewer.
Thank you. Further, Councilor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Quick question, Director Webb. Are there any, and this might be, well, are there any like weak points if you don't connect the whole system with this liner? Does that exist if you're increasing your flow and you stop at, let's say, Grand, and you don't continue farther south or something? Does that put pressure on other parts of the system? Or if it does, is that why you work to eventually line everything when you can?
Sure. Yeah, Mayor, through you. So we'll go manhole to manhole. Right, so we'll go from one manhole to the next. We don't don't stop in the middle so that we can make that connection. The downstream lines are cameraed and monitored before we do the project to ensure that they're free flowing and everything's good there. And then if we need to do those in the future, we'll bring those back in the next year's project. So we'll analyze that downstream. I don't think that increased flow would be enough to cause any issues. So.
Further questions? Okay. Public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none. Any comments? Councilor Newman.
I didn't know how this system worked, so I went down like a rabbit hole to let me tell you how cool it is, actually. Yeah, it was on TikTok, and it seemed like an hour later I was still watching them. So it is a cool system, and it does help our budget because now we don't have to go spend the millions of dollars. So I appreciate all your guys' work on this.
City Clerk, please call the roll.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Aye.
Lockhart.
Aye.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson. Yes. Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes. Item 14, Councilor Newman.
I move to approve the agreement between the City of Laramie and Klinger Hagerman LLC for professional auditing services for the fiscal years 2025 to 2027 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Newman, second by Richardson. Good evening, Director Wade.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Councilors. You are being asked to consider an agreement with Klinger Hagerman this evening to provide 3 years' worth of audit services. And so let's just talk about what services are included. First, we'll say it's the mandated financial statement audit. As many of you know, state statute does require cities to have an audit completed. It's also best practice, but in this case, the state statute does require it. And as you know, as recipients of federal funding, we also expend enough in federal resources that we have to have a single audit completed each year. And so this agreement would cover audit services for both the financial statement and the compliance audit, as we call it. We did issue an RFP for these services. I issued the request on Quest CDN and then also outreach to all of the major Wyoming firms to see if we could get them to bid. I also distributed the RFP to a couple of firms who were trying to pick up some additional business and I think expand from the East Coast to the Rocky Mountain West. And so we had more activity in response to this request for proposals than is typical for audit, which is good because it means we have some options and some competition. We received 4 proposals with this level of solicitation for the RFP. Last time in 2022, we received 3 proposals and I had to beg each firm to submit the proposals because audit services were in such high demand and there were so few practitioners. So from my standpoint, it is really good for the city that the environment has changed. It certainly makes the market more competitive. I didn't include on the summary sheet the criteria that I use to evaluate the RFP. So when you issue an RFP, there's different criteria that are part of it. Firms need to meet those criteria and you need to rank the firms accordingly. I'm happy to report that our existing audit firm, Klinger Hagerman, did have the highest scoring proposal and they were the lowest cost firm to meet all of the requirements. I want to make sure that I point out that one of our requirements is that the auditor use our financial reporting software. It makes the process a lot more efficient and keeps our cost low. And so when you see that as one of the requirements, I want to just interpret that a little bit for you. You do know that we account for things using multiple bases in government accounting, and this software is what makes that possible. And so if an auditor weren't to have access to that software package, it would actually be quite an impediment and would require an additional software implementation. And we do kind of have our hands full on that front. So was happy to see how this worked out. I also want to point out that the cost for base audit services from 2025 to 2027 comes in at $241,050. The prior 3-year contract was $236,650, which is only a 1.8% increase. And so if we consider what's happened to the cost of most goods, I am very pleased with the very small price increase for the city's audit. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Questions, councilors? Councilor Shumway.
Well, I'll make a question before the comment before the question. I, having served on the Finance Committee, was very pleased with the product, the reliability, and Klinger Hagerman meeting all of our required deadlines. And I have been relieved that we've got away from missing deadlines, missing things, reports that we had to have. And my question is this. I understand that we have increased our capacity of what we need to have them do, and it's surprising to me that they've been able to stay as close as they have with this amount. Is their pricing that came to us because they're already established a relationship with us, or is this something that you've noticed that they do with other clients that we have that they serve?
Honorable Mayor, through you, I think that there is a market for audit services, and I did see another 2 firms propose prices that were not as competitive as Klinger Hagerman, but were in the ballpark. I mean, like the next one was, it was $5,000, the other was maybe $10,000, and so I think that there is a market for what cities of our size pay for audit services first and foremost, and they don't exceed the market. The second is I think they can come in a little bit lower because they know that the city is a low-risk audit client, and so they know the volume of work, they know what to expect from us, they know the quality to expect from us, and I would like to believe that that does impact what we pay for these services. And if it's okay with you, you, I'd also like to, just for some of our new council members, what Councilmember Shumway was referring to with the delays in audit, we actually experienced in 2022 and 23 or 21 and 22 delays in issuing our audit report, not because of city staff, but because the auditors did not have capacity in the midst of the exodus of accountants from the profession in the pandemic. And so I actually required, as part of the RFP, that the firms state that they had capacity each year to issue our audit opinion by December 31st, which is required by state statute.
Councilor Freed?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Wade. This could be a big question, but maybe you could just summarize it, I'm hoping, or we can talk about it later. But my only question, by getting an audit by someone like Klinger Hagerman or anyone else for that matter, does it give us any protection, down the line, because we have an approved audit, obviously besides the state statutes that we need to do and federal reporting guidelines, but does that give us protection down the line, is my only question.
Honorable Mayor, through you, may I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
Are you speaking of protection like from fraud or protection from, could you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, thank you. Let's say someone has, sues the city because they say there's some financial issue or discrepancy or something along those lines. Do they provide any sort of representation by having done, assuming the audit is turned, that it's good, do they provide any protection in that category?
Honorable Mayor, through you. So audits are designed to provide reasonable assurance that financial statements are free of material misstatement. There are limits to an audit, and they certainly don't sample every transaction. And so if we were challenged in that regard, I would doubt that the auditors would provide any protection, but they would provide evidence. But city staff would also be relied on to provide this evidence that would carry likely a higher weight, because one of the fundamental truths of an audit is that management is ultimately responsible for the presentation, for the financial statements, and auditors have to be independent, and so their procedures just always have some limitations, if that makes any sense. I hope I did a good job answering that question for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. It was a weird question, but
yeah,
thank you.
It was a good one.
I thought it was informative.
Good.
Further questions? Public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, comments from council. Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Wade. I'm always buy local, so I'm glad that we can keep these funds in town, and they already have an understanding, because if I recall, we already had a presentation with them recently, so they were very informative to us non-accounting type minds. So, but I appreciate the research you've done and the relationship you've built with them, so I feel very confident about them. Thank you.
Further comment? City Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Aye.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes. Item 15, Vice Mayor Richardson.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Laramie City Council approve the professional services agreement between the City of Laramie, Wyoming and Clarion Associates, LLC for the development of the Laramie Comprehensive Plan in an amount not to exceed $292,807 and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second. Motion by Richardson, second by O'Doherty. Good evening, Mr. Gabentuller.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of council, we're excited to start the comprehensive plan update process. This was last done in 2016, so long overdue in our minds, as we should be looking at this every 5 years, but due to staffing and so forth in the department, we've only been able to get to it now, but we're excited to. A little background, we did put this RFP out in December. We did get 18 proposals back, which was exciting, and which I want to thank Mike Bork and Jen Wade were both one of the original committee members that went over those applications and scored those before we interviewed 6 firms. Clarion was the one that had the strongest public engagement strategy, the best experience with other communities our size, had a lot of experience with town gown type issues as well. So we were really impressed with them. They have a sub, AVI. They're located in Cheyenne, and one of the planners on board there actually interned with the city of Laramie, got his degree here. So he's going to be the project manager, one of the project managers. So we're excited to have Clarion on board for this project, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
Questions, councilors? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I return to councilors for comments. Any comments? City Clerk, please call the roll.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes, and we move to item 16. Councilor Newman.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the council approve Resolution 2025-37 awarding $231,272 due to rounding in fiscal year 2025-2026 Community Partners Fund in accordance with the amounts listed in the resolution, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Newman, second by Vigil. City Manager Jordan.
Sorry, Council. I was sidetracked talking to my neighbor. I feel like I've been caught in 3rd grade chatting with him.
It happens to the best of us.
Council, as you recall, back in March on the 25th, you had your work session where you had 34 of your 34 applicants make presentations to you, asking for funding from the city of Laramie for the upcoming fiscal year that starts July 1st through June 30th of 2026. At that meeting, you received the memo from me that touched base with you on what our available resources were, and recommended a slight, what I call a cost of living adjustment to the total amount of funding that you could appropriate or allocate to those 34 partners at rates that you determined for each of the applicants. That amount was $231,272. I would remind the council the source of this funding is from the local 5th penny general purpose tax, which is approved by the voters every 4 years. So the resolution that we prepared for you tonight has taken your individual scores and averaged them across all 9 of the city council members, and then we've entered that averaged amount into the resolution as proposed amount of funding that the council would approve, certainly within your discretion to modify those amounts, but the process and sort of methodology we've used for a number of years is that averaging process, looking at your individual votes and then an average of the 9. If you have any other questions for me, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, City Manager. Questions, councilors? Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, my understanding is we made one exception for the Christmas lighting with tough guys where they're treated differently. Is that correct?
Mayor and Council, thank you for that question through you, Mayor Cumby. Yes, we did. For the Winter Lights Festival, we were asked to exclude them from the 34 agencies. So they actually, under this new approach, would comprise a 35th agency that we could enter into a fee-for-service agreement with for this year to help support that activity in Washington Park, if the council wishes to pursue that. So I would maybe appreciate some direction from you. You don't have to do that as a motion, but if that is the will of the majority of the councilors, it'd be good to know that. And then we could prep that fee-for-service agreement and bring it back to you. I would also mention one other thing, if I could, Mayor, that Councilor Shumway's question prompted me to recall. I did want to point out, too, when I looked at the categorization that we've used for each of these agencies, I do think one of them might be categorized wrongly. So I just want to point that out, because we do have, as you recall, our community partners are split into three groups or types. One of those is civic and quasi-governmental organizations. We only have one there, and that, of course, is the Albany County Public Library. But the other two of the three groups are social service organizations and then recreation and cultural organizations. And you'll see we did have a new applicant this year in social service organizations. They are stated, but I believe should actually be grouped under recreation and cultural organizations, and that is Laramie 24/7 Inc. I don't know that I would qualify that as a social service organization, and that's something that I didn't catch when my staff prepared this. So for just purposes of logistics, I wanted to note that we'll probably move that into the recreational cultural organizations and now the social service.
Thank you. Further questions? Public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none. Any final comments? Councilor Shumway?
Without objection, I would like to have the council consider having Tough Guys in the Winter Lights Festival be moved to the category to where they are. What's the term you used?
Fee for service.
Fee for service.
I would second that.
Yeah. It's important.
So this is a suggestion with a second, but it's not, okay. Yeah, I'm in agreement, and I think I really appreciate the conversation that you and the Vice Mayor had that evening that sparked that, and I talked to the city manager the next day, and she worked on that approach to it, and I think that it really is a great benefit to the community, what they do. It brings a lot of people and organizations together. So.
Mayor, could we either have a voice vote to approve that or else an amendment to that, to make that ratified?
So, City Clerk, can you advise me on how would that be appropriate to enter at this time?
That's a great question, because we had a main motion on the floor. So this motion isn't really relevant per se, but kind of is, you know, to the main motion. So what I would probably recommend would be to vote on the main motion first, and then after you've voted on the main motion, dispersed of that, then I would make a motion to direct staff to consider you know, bringing back a fee-for-service agreement with Tough Guys.
Okay, and that was kind of my understanding from what the city manager said, is that she was going to come back with an agreement for us to approve. Okay. Any further comment?
So, Mayor, if I could.
Yes.
Just to formally withdraw the motion, since it's not quite in line with the main motion that we have on the floor right now.
Are you in agreement? Second in agreement. Okay. Further comment? Did you have comment? Councilor Newman.
This is like one of my favorite things to vote on. However, just so the public knows, this is really hard to do as well. And I got called out from a person in Walmart that must have read the packet and kind of complained on some of the numbers that really all of council picked. And but it is really hard, right? We only have so much money, and I wouldn't want to change how we do it, because I think it is fair the way it is rounded, just to city manager's point. So, but that's all I have.
City Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Aye.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Vigil.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes. Item 17, Councilor Freed.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the City Council approve Resolution 2025-38, amending the FY 2025-2026 budget for Parks, Recreation, and Public Services, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
I have a motion by Freed, second by Vigil. Good evening, Director Bork.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I too am very excited to be here. I've been waiting all night to talk to you. So the resolution in front of you has really two separate parts in one budget amendment that I'm requesting. The first one is cemetery repurchase from the International Order of the Odd Fellows. So in my summary, I have 3 paragraphs, and I'm just going to break it down to the numbers. At the cemetery, we have 46 acres, of which there are 14,000 grave sites. There's 470 open sellable spaces, but that includes ones for ashes and child sites. Of the full-size spaces, we only have 145 spaces left of all of the available. We sell about an average of about 41 spaces per year. And so Scott Hunter, my parks manager, is very good about reaching out on a regular basis with some of our other organizations that have sellable spaces on the property as well, of which the International Order of the Odd Fellows is one of them. And they have agreed tacitly, pending approval, to sell back one of the areas here back to the city, which would give us basically about double the capacity of sellable spaces that we have. In ordinance for cemetery repurchase, for multiple lots, we are allowed up to a 70% of the lot space repurchase. But because of the sheer number of spaces that they're offering, and for the fact that the International Order of Odd Fellows also sells their spaces at a higher rate than what the city sells, they're asking for this 80% consideration. The difference between that 70 and 80% for these spaces is about $5,000. So it's not very much. And so the total amount for those total spaces is that $38,400, which staff recommends that is approved. The second part of the amendment is just more of we're getting towards the end of our fiscal year, and I'm learning more every day about my budget and the very diverse areas that we've got. And we are looking at the budget and anticipate a shortage by the end of the year, mainly due to higher utility rates and a few unexpected repairs. For instance, we did a fire suppression inspection system, and a few relays need to be replaced, and they're fairly expensive. We also had some concession equipment that needed to be replaced because it was out of commercial concession compliance. So we're requesting that $20,000 amendment. And so I'm here for any questions. If you have any, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, councilors? Vice Mayor Richardson.
Thank you, Mayor. What is the longer-term plan for when we do run out of spaces?
Honorable Mayor, through you, we are working on that right now, and I would actually defer to the city manager potentially if she's got a more complex answer. But there have been locations around the city that have been looked at for development of a new cemetery space. Nothing is concrete yet, and this gives us that little bit more breathing room. We estimate from the time we would purchase or start developing land, it's about a 5 to potentially as much as 10-year process to get it ready for us to be able to start selling our first spaces. And so we need that as much extra breathing room as we possibly can. And decisions will need to be made fairly soon on a new location. But we don't have anything firmly in place right now.
Correct. Just glad to know you're looking. That's good.
Thank you. Further questions? Public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none. Any comments from council. Councilor Freed.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Director Bork. I just wanted to say that Director Bork and Mr. Hunter came to Parks Trees and Rec Advisory Board, and everyone there felt very comfortable about spending the money for those spaces. And we learned a lot about spaces in cemeteries. Thanks.
Thank you. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Aye.
Lockhart.
Aye.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Vigil.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes. Item 18, Councilor Freed.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the City Council approve the Infrastructure Improvements Project Budget Amendment for the FY 2025-2026 budget for Parks, Recs, and Public Services, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Freed, second by Newman. Welcome back, Director Bork.
Honorable Mayor, it seems like I was just here. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council. This resolution is not expending any additional money. It's really transferring money from one project to another. So we had the Labonte Park aerator project, which is putting a new aerator in the lake. And we have about just under $25,000 left in that project, but we've expended all the money that we expect that we're going to expend. We have the new equipment in place. It's being hooked up right now. And so we have some other park infrastructure improvements that we want to transfer about 22,000 of that remaining balance into our park infrastructure repairs project. And because they're two different projects in two different divisions, we have to come for council authorization versus just transferring them ourselves. And so I had a question from Vice Mayor Richardson about some of the other infrastructure repairs. So I reached out to Scott Hunter to get some of the more details on that. The main one that came to our first attention is the dock at Labonte Park. We have to replace two of the floats. They were leaking. We also had some holes in the decking of that dock, and that needs to be repaired. But in addition to that, most of the rest of the money we expect to spend is actually on sidewalk repairs and replacements around Labonte, as well as a couple of other areas. But just to give you an example, we're replacing the ADA pad off of Harney and 14th sidewalk because there's a sewer line settling there, and it doesn't meet standards for ADA. We've got about 200 linear feet of sidewalk along Harney because we have to match the percentage grades. And several others that we just really want to make sure that we have enough money in that infrastructure repair budget. And since we had expended all the money in the aerator project, we felt this was a good time to do that as we're heading into our summer projects and want to be able to get those completed. So if you have any other questions, I would be happy to entertain them.
Thank you, Director. Questions, councilors? Seeing none. Any public comment on this agenda item? Back to council. Any final comments? City Clerk, if you can please call the roll.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Vigil.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes. Item 19, Councilor Bowling.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the City Council approve Resolution 2025-40, amending the master fee schedule for the Parks, Recreation, and Public Services Department, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Bowling, second by Vice Mayor Richardson. Welcome back.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. So this resolution is, we have a master fee schedule that is authorized whenever we want to make changes by the City Council. The last time we did that was in March of 2024, and that was about a 10% increase almost across the board to all of our fees that we charge for everything from memberships at the Recreation Center to classes to to rentals, et cetera. We're not recommending that this year, mainly because that was authorized just in 2024. We didn't actually put most of those changes into place until September or October of 2024. So it's really almost barely had time to kind of take effect and have people get used to those new rates. I can say, however, that with those rates, even just in that time, we have seen about an additional $100,000 in revenue from the recreation center just from that kind of comprehensive. What I asked staff to do this time is to go through and look at some of the other rates that weren't really membership based. So you see quite a few changes in attachment A, but most of those are moving things around, consolidating some things. The biggest changes are some fee increases to our Adventure Kids program, which both our after school program and our summer camp program are at capacity and probably our very most popular program. And really are still what, in my opinion, are undercharging based on kind of market and keeping things competitive in the community. And then also facility rentals, some adjustments there. The other big changes that you see in here are moving some of our program fees that are in the master fee program to our cost recovery fees, which are ones that have variable costs that we need to be able to adjust those fees on a more regular basis. Things like our special events and classes that we really need to not have a fixed fee, but be able to adjust those. And so the total impact, this is always estimated, but our total estimated impact is about $24,500 in the course of a year. This also was voted on at the April Parks, Tree, and Rec Board meeting and was recommended for unanimous approval. So if you have any questions about any of the specific rates or any other questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Director. Questions, councilors? Seeing none, I open it to the public comment. Mr. Henderson?
Thank you, Your Honor. I was listening when Director Bork indicated that there was an increase in revenue. I didn't hear a relative correlation to the utilization of the rec center given that revenue increase. That's point one, and most important to me is how that affects the community. I'm not generally in favor of a tax increase to our citizens for utilization, and in Director Bork's statement that comparator programs are at a market rate seems to be off the table in consideration with the city in terms of the charge of the city representing all to the best interest of the community. Those close my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Any further comment? I return to council. Vice Mayor Richardson.
Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all looking at this and want to kind of highlight actually that out of school time, the Adventure Kids program. I think it's fantastic that we are able to provide such an affordable program when there are so few in the city. I know this is hugely utilized, and I think that while the rest of the rec center may subsidize this program in a lot of ways, I think it's very much to the benefit of the community. And so the increase looks small. It's still very, very affordable compared to a lot of other things. So just appreciate that.
Councilor Newman.
Why I agree with those statements, and I always do this, I will not support this, and I didn't support it the last time either. And I appreciate all the work that goes into this and to try to figure out how to bring more funds into the rec center so it's not coming out of the general fund. But I think some of these, like the Adventure Kids, I think is actually a good price, especially for single families who use it. And now we're gonna try to get 10% more. I think we could find a different way with some more of these other items that, like the kitchen per se, we could up some of those more than the ones that are really needed in our community. So that's why I will not support this again.
Counselor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the comments from the public and from council. And I just want to reiterate what Dr. Bork, or Mr. Director Bork, maybe Doctor, who knows?
Thank you.
what Director Bork said, one about, the fees and assessing, after 1 or 2 years of implementing something and seeing what happens because of it, and then making considerable changes if necessary, but really waiting to see. A lot of these are 10%-ish increases, and like Director Bork said too, the Parks, Rec, and Trees Advisory Board looked at these through the presentation. A lot of them have kids that utilize these programs. They utilize these programs and represent a big faction of our community, and all voted in support of this. So I just wanted to reiterate that. Thanks.
Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Mayor. I will support this. The reason is because when there's a fee, a person has the option to either pay the fee or not take the service. When we don't do that, then the increase that comes to the rec center is subsidized by taxes through the general fund.
Further comment? Vice Mayor?
I'm a bit out of order here, but I actually have a question, if that's possible to go back.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Director Bork, on those Adventure Kids fees, is that a sliding scale or is that flat fee for each family?
Honorable Mayor, through you, it is a flat fee.
Thank you.
Any further comment? City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
No.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Vigil.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumbie.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses and 1 no, Your Honor.
Thank you. That motion passes. And item 20, Councilor Bowling.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the City Council approve Resolution 2025-41, adopting an income threshold for the application of needs-based discounts for recreation center memberships and activity scholarships, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Bowling, second by Freed. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. 20 years ago, when the Recreation Center was started, it was established with a philosophy that the community should be able to access the facility as much as possible despite financial need. Scholarship funds were set up to enable fees to be offset for these individuals meeting income guidelines to access programs and multi-use passes. Back in 2021, Barker Inc. or CCAD had conducted a facility performance analysis, and one of the recommendations was instituting these income guidelines that would enable a needs-based discount on memberships as well as our youth activities. In the last time that this was adjusted was in May of 2022, and was adopted in 2024. And in that time, it resulted in 89 households accessing the discount. The reason that we're bringing it back to you is that the federal federal income guidelines have changed, and so that's attachment A. These are the updated guidelines for income on how somebody becomes eligible for those needs-based discounts. This was again brought before the city, the Parks, Tree, and Recreation Board in April, and they did approve or recommend approval to the council. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions, councilors? Seeing none, public comment on this agenda item? Back to council for comment. Councilor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Bork. And I do just want to point out, too, that I know we've had discussions in this room before about different programs and if we could use a different way to talk about that. And that was just discussed at this meeting as well. If someone could prove state income or something and not have to jump through different hoops. And the advisory committee thought that this would be the best way to gain access from people to utilize this. Thanks.
Thank you. Further comment, Councilor Vigil?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I really support this. I think it's kind of common sense. I deal with basic needs concerns in my day job every day, and we're seeing a huge increase in need, especially among students and students with families. And so I would imagine that that's similar for the community too. And so I think these needs-based discounts, we're only going to see more utilization in the next few years. Thanks.
Further comment? City Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Aye.
Lockhart.
Aye.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Vigil.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes. Item 21, Councilor Freed.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the City Council approve the land lease between the City of Laramie and the Laramie Dirt Riders doing business as the 7220 Dirt Riders and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
I have a motion by Freed, second by Newman, and you've done a lot of work tonight, Director Bork.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, we are almost done. We've just got one more after this. So this is a lease that we actually already have in place with the Laramie Dirt Riders. In the attachments, you can see the chunk of land that they've had already. But they, as you notice in the motion, they're now doing business as the 7220 Dirt Riders, so they did change their legal name. And in reviewing their lease, as I've been reviewing all of the leases for our outside organizations, I wanted to, it just made sense to update the overall lease. The older lease was a year to year, so I recommend making this a 5-year lease. They still have the same obligations of providing us an annual report, providing us their membership rules and rates if they change, and providing us proof of insurance that we're listed as additional insured for any liability issues. And so we're just bringing this forward as the new lease with the new terms, with the new 5-year length of time, and under their new name of the 7220 Dirt Riders. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions, councilors? Seeing none, public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, Councilor, any comments? City Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Aye.
Lockhart.
Aye.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Vigil.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you. That motion passes. Item 22, Councilor Vigil.
Thank you, Mayor. This one's a little interesting. I move that council move to appoint Councilor Blank as the official voting delegate and Councilor Blank as the official alternate voting delegate for the 2025 WAM Summer Convention business meeting.
Mayor.
Yes.
If I could, counsel, on this item, since it is a little bit different, we can change the format just a little bit. I'll give you a short presentation and stuff so that you can actually fill in the blanks. WAM, Wyoming Association of Municipalities, is holding their annual summer conference June 11th through the 13th at East High School in Cheyenne. Each summer when they hold their convention, they request a voting delegate from each community as well as an alternate. So if the delegate is sick or can't make the meeting for some reason, the alternate would step in for them and be able to vote at the business meeting at the convention. So that business meeting occurs the Thursday of the conference, so that's on June 12th, and they will provide all the information for that that's necessary. They'll give you agenda information and all of that. So what we're asking for the council tonight is to set members that are going to be attending the conference as your delegate and then an alternate in case they're unable to attend.
Thank you, City Clerk. So how do we go about that?
So with that, we have about 5 council members that have responded to me saying that they will be attending. Out of the 5 that are attending, I would maybe ask if there's interest in maybe representing the council as voting delegate.
So can we start with a show of hands of who's planning to attend? So it's the 5 here. Okay. Then the next step is there anyone who would like to serve to be appointed as the official voting delegate, and anyone who would serve as the alternate? And Councilor Newman, are you volunteering to be the official voting delegate? Thank you very much. Do I have a volunteer for the alternate?
I'm willing.
Councilor O'Doherty. So then that would be, to fill in the blanks, Councilor Newman as the official voting delegate, and Councilor O'Doherty as the official alternate. Does Councilor Vigil now repeat her motion?
I'm sorry, but would you mind? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you. Councilor Vigil.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I move that council move to appoint Councilor Newman as the official voting delegate and Councilor O'Doherty as the official alternate voting delegate for the 2025 WHAM Summer Convention Business Meeting.
Second.
I have a motion from Vigil, second from Shumway. Councilors, any questions or comments at this time? Councilor Shumway.
The format is going to change this year. The resolutions that normally came from communities will now be streamlined into a different format. And I think that's the way I understand it, correct, City Manager Jordan? There's going to be maybe, instead of having 100 resolutions that we, or not 100, 30 or 40 resolutions we vote on, there will be streamlined down to maybe 10 that we can put the weight behind, the Wyoming Association municipalities behind. There still will be a business meeting where they will be talking about officers and such, but it's going to be a much more streamlined business meeting, so it shouldn't take an hour as it has before. It should be done in 15 to 30 minutes.
Thank you. Further comment? I just want to thank all of the councilors, Councilor Shumway, for your service on the board and how much we,
Manager Jordan also.
and City Manager Jordan for our active participation. And thank you, Councilor Newman and O'Doherty, for your willingness to serve in this capacity. It's very meaningful. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Any final comment? City Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Vigil.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes. And finally, item 23, Councilor Freed.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the City Council approve on introduction and first reading original ordinance number 2105, amending the Laramie Municipal Code, Chapter 2.28, related to the Parks, Trees, and Recreation Advisory Board.
Second.
I have a motion by Freed, second by Newman. Welcome, Director Bork.
Bringing it home. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I've been working with the Parks, Tree, and Recreation Board since November. Oh, Thank you. I've been working, usually I don't need the microphone, but for recording purposes. So I've been working with the Parks, Tree, and Rec Board since November on revision to the 2.28, the duties of the Parks, Tree, and Recreation Board. The existing ordinance has been around for about 27 years. 27 years ago, the Parks and Rec Department looked far different than it does now. Some of the main difference, or one of the main differences, is we now have a city arborist on staff that handles a lot of our tree management, which is one of the reasons why it was the Parks, Tree, and Recreation Board. And so I think you had two different versions, the version without the changes and the versions with the changes. And so you can see a lot of the main differences were just really cleaning up the duties under the duties section to be more reflective of what the PTR board, advisory board does now versus how it was written 27 years ago. And then there were some other just minor language cleanup changes. As you saw, it referenced chairman and vice chairman, and I just made it chair and vice chair, just minor kind of almost more wordsmithing edits from there. So the board met in November of 2024 and did the initial review. Asked me to make the recommended changes and bring it back to them, which I did in February. In February, the only addition they asked me to make was to add reference to the duties that they have regarding the Albany County Rec Board and their review and recommendations for those funds as they come to the City Council. And then I brought back a final version on April 9th, as you see before you, which the Parks, Tree, and Recreation Board unanimously voted to recommend approval. So if you have any questions about the changes, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Director. Council, any questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this agenda item? Returning to council, any comments? Councilor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to Director Bork and any of the staff that were working on this, because I think it was needed, and the Parks, Trees, Rec Advisory Board was really happy with the work and the diligence in cleaning some of this up. So thanks.
Thank you. And thank you, Director Bork. I can tell you've been very busy and cleaning things up and bringing things forward, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. City Clerk, if you can please call the roll.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Aye.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes. Next, is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none. Councilors, are there any suggestions to consider future council work session topics? Councilor Newman.
I have a really cool idea on what to do with the money we collect from landlords with the landlord ordinance, and I think it would be better to have a work session on it instead of just like emailing everybody, so I would like to have a work session on that.
Second.
Okay, so City Manager, are you clear on that?
I'll get with City Manager on...
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So you'll clarify that?
I'll clarify with City Clerk and City Manager on...
Yeah, I'll just be looking for distinction of what information you hope to receive that was not presented, 6 months ago or something. I'll have to look at where that, when we were here recently with that, so.
Thank you. Councilor O'Doherty, item 26.
I move we adjourn to executive session regarding litigation, Wyoming Statute 16-4-405, lowercase a, Romanet 3.
Second.
I have a motion by O'Doherty, second by Lockhart. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. We are adjourned to executive session.